What is going on, boys and girls of YouTube? We're back at it. We are covering top 5 mids. We've done top 5 jungles, top 5 ADCs, took a gap. I wanted to see how the meta played out a little bit. Seems like those two roles are fairly good. So let's talk about mids today. Covering 5-ish, and then we'll have some honorable mentions as normal. But we're just gonna jump right into it. Make sure you hit the like button, make sure you're subscribed, and we're gonna talk about this. So, out of our top 5s, we got a couple hunters. Our 5 slot is going to be covered by 2 hunters, and it's just the way that they both play out. And we'll talk about it a little bit. So, I already told you there's some hunters in this. It's AMC, number 5 on the list. So, number 5, going to work our way up to number 1. And it's Chiron. So, just going to show you both these. They're equal, in my opinion. They both have their positive sides. They both have their semi-ish downsides. Chiron's good at diving because his ult, he can reach the back line. AMC is good at kiting and maintaining position and poking and killing tanks because of the tank shred out of his ultimate. So that's just straightforward. Builds, I'll pull them over here. They're on Smite source. So this is the build you're going to use. You can go more cooldown in this build if you do not need anti-heal. It's going to be very rare that you don't want anti-heal, but this build's overall really good because you're getting fail not, so you're getting cooldown there. You're getting cooldown from the blue shaman totem off of your red buff, and the build slams between Bluestone, Heartseeker, and Crusher, all proccing off of your abilities. Your abilities raw damage, and then the little bit of autos that you get in. The damage output is absurd. Your lane clear is very good. You're very safe, and your late game team fight is nuts. Now, the big downside everyone will bring up, which no high level players don't agree with, is there's too much physical damage. You can't have 4 physical damage. You can. You can have 2 hunters, you can have a jungler, and you can have a warrior. The big thing with this is you can't alter or go away from these builds at all. That's the downside. Last night I had an AMC mid getting run at. He decided to go breastplate. He had 10% pen at 30 minutes. We had 4 fizz. They were a full physical defense team, so they just built lots of physical defense. He did literally autoed the solo laner for 40. You cannot change from these builds. You have to build enough pen. You have to build enough damage. You can't go tanky. That is what you have to watch out. You cannot do. So the reason Chiron's good, we talked about his ability to dive, his extra time bought from his ult, where you don't die until your ult's over. You've got really good poke, and then you have the dispel out of your 1. Learning how to use the 1 correctly is a really, really, really big deal. Okay, your 1 cleanses, warns his teammates to evade the area, granting them 0.5 seconds of crowd control immunity. This is insanely strong. Okay, this counters Fenrir, this counters Athena taunts, Geb ults, like this counters a million things if you're using it properly. It's actually ridiculous. Using this puts him at number 5. Using this correctly puts him at number 5. If you don't use this correctly, it puts AMC at number 5. Now, why is AMC on here? There's a bunch of different factors. They nerfed lifesteal on minions, right? So lane sustain is way lower, but Amuz Cab's 1 gives him sustain. It gives him 40 HP 5. This really, really counters that healing loss. It kind of overrides it because the other person's not gonna be lifestealing, but you'll be regenerating. The big thing with AMC 2 is you're gonna usually level the 1 first. This makes you insanely fast. This gives you a lot of attack speed. This gives you that sustain. So you're hard to kill if you're moving around the map correctly, and if you're moving around the lane correctly. You have extra wards because these work as wards. You have great lane clear. You have good poke. You're annoying. You're safe. And then the ultimate kicker, the end all be all, well, not the end all be all, but one of the biggest parts of this too is your pen shred. You get pen shred from the ultimate. So it makes it so it is possible for you and another hunter to kill that front line that is diving you guys. It helps a lot. And then we talked about the build. The build is the other big deal here, okay? It's important. As with Chiron, all of those procs, the Heartseeker, Crusher, the Bluestone, it's a lot of damage. On a god like AMC, where you are literally spamming your 3 onto everybody on cooldown, this is life-changing, okay? It's a really, really big deal. You can drop out the brawlers if you don't need anti-heal. It's probably never gonna happen, but you can build more cooldown in this slot if you really wanted to. This build though, you'll feel insanely strong. I highly recommend this build. Run it in mid, enjoy yourselves, have fun playing hunters in mid while it lasts, because they are very, very, very good. All right, that's number 5 on our list, right? Now we're going to cut back to mages for number 4. It's Tiamat. Tiamat's just Tiamat. That's all there is to it. I think Tiamat's been good for a long time. We saw Tiamat get some play at a competitive level at Worlds and play in Worlds. All the builds work on Tiamat. I want to preface that before we go into the builds. The kit is strong. Clear is good. Insanely safe. CC immunity in the melee form of the ultimate. Good CC in the kit. Really high burst damage. Hard to kill because of the passive. That's all. I mean, that's all the positives to the god, right? She also plays well into a lot of these other mages. You have really good poke. You have really good kill potential. All valuable, right? Now, when we go to Tiamat, I talked about all the builds working, okay? Book build is on here. That does not mean this is the only build. I just haven't added the other build yet. This is the book build. A lot of people like this build and a lot of people hate this build. This build requires you to farm. If you are not good at farming in mid, do not run this build. If you fall behind, and I don't mean you die, I mean if you fall behind because you aren't farming properly, you will feel insanely weak with this build. If you're capable of farming, if you're capable of keeping up your farm through deaths or kills or rotations or whatever, like a good mid laner, then this build will feel strong. Now, when I cover these other mages in the top slots, you can run those builds on Tiamat. Those builds will still feel very, very good. This build is super strong though. This build is very, very, very strong. You can also replace the starter in this build with alternative timeline. That's not a bad thing at all. It's good. It's fine. You're not going anywhere wrong. Honestly, with mage builds right now, I don't think you can go wrong necessarily with the build unless you build this book build and you play it on a god that doesn't have more than 4 abilities. You need to play it on Merlin, need to play it on Agni, need to play it on Tiamat, need to play it on I don't even know. Like, those are the main ones you're gonna play it on. And you have to farm. You have to be able to farm. Please, 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 please be able to farm. You'll have a good time if you do that. So Tiamat, number 4 on our list. We have another hunter in the number 3 slot. This should not surprise you since we already saw AMC, we already saw Chiron. Martichoras. Martichoras is those same gods with a insane kit. His kit is still nuts. So if you did not know, his ultimate shreds protections. So who would have thought? Another hunter shredding protections being good in a double hunter meta. Crazy. Who would have thought, right? On top of that, this ultimate buys you, I think is it 4 seconds? No, 3 seconds. 3 seconds of free time to not be killed. That is time for your team to kill your target. That is time for your team to rotate. That is time for you to avoid abilities. This ultimate's just insane. It was broken for what, 6 months when it was doing too much damage. Now it's just insanely strong and people are finally realizing it. Your abilities, just like AMC, you can throw up the Crusher, Heartseeker, and Bluestone procs very easily off of your 1. Your 1 goes really far, your 1 slows, it allows follow-up, it stays on the ground forever. It is easy to guarantee poke. You also have setup because you have a mini root. When you combine the 2 or you auto off of the 2. Having setup in something that slows on a god that's hard to chase and target is crazy. Then we go a step further. Built-in attack speed. Also built-in lifesteal on a god that's not going to build lifesteal. So we have pen shred, we have sustain, all just as part of the kit. Then we get to talk about the builds. And the build, once again, it's the same build. It's nothing fancy, it's nothing crazy. It's the same hunter build as the other 2 hunters. We're getting the 3 procs of yellow damage. Yellow damage are the damage that comes from an item. Insane damage. We have crit, we have cooldown, we have flat pen, we have anti-heal. It's nuts. Now, we need to talk about something. In the ability leveling, you notice the 1, the 2, the alt, the 3 is last. Do not level this 3 until later in the game. Not a single time. You really don't need to level this ability until like level 13-ish. I think it's level 13. You could go 14 if you were crazy, but I'm pretty sure it's 13 is when you'll pretty much automatically level it. Level this first time. Don't put a single point into it until 13. This will allow you to just peek out on your damage and you'll feel it. It'll feel a lot better than rushing into this early for no reason. So that is one thing you need to note if you're going to play Martichoras mid. Once again, just like the other hunters, you can kill the tanks that are diving at you. You can dive into the back line. You can play aggressive. You can play back. You can play for poke. Hunters are so strong right now. Don't let anyone try to tell you or talk you into it being any other way. So that is number 3 on our list. And then we round out the top 5 with 2 mages, which I don't think either of these mages are surprising in the slightest. Okay. These are 2 mages that were banned all of Worlds. These are 2 mages that were performing great at the end of last year. So definitely going to carry into this year. They hard stomp, they one shot, they both have great poke, and the damage output is just wild, as well as the laning phase is very easy. So you can already see I brought up number 2, Thoth. Thoth is, I don't even know. So if you are wondering why Thoth, so Thoth has built-in pen into his passive. Now you're gonna be like, he always did. Yeah, you're right. Except for now he also has percent pen built into his passive. So he has 15 flat pen, and he has 5% pen in his kit. I want you to process that. This is one of the best passives in the game. 15 flat pen. That is as much as a Brawler's Beat Stick. That is more than, was that Spear of Deso? Is it 5 more than Spear of Deso or same? It's either same or more than Spear of Deso. 5% pen is just free on top of that. So imagine a item with 15 pen and 5% flat pen. How strong that would be. That is in his kit as a passive. Really understand that. Then we go a step further. Every time you hit the 1 on a god, it reduces the cooldown by 0.5 seconds. So an ability that's only on an 8-second cooldown can have its cooldown reduced by 0.5 seconds every time you hit it. That's before you build any cooldown. You build cooldown that's on a 5-second cooldown. You hit this 3 times. This is on a 3.5 second cooldown. Make sure I did my math. It takes around 2 seconds to cast the ability. So your ability basically has no cooldown. Then we have a massive long range root that hits very, very hard, and an ultimate that will one shot. This ultimate can hit easily over 2,000 damage. You can't go wrong. The biggest downside to Thoth is a lack of CC immunity on the ultimate. So your positioning is very, very important. And your ability to be punished by warriors and assassins if you are out of position or if you use your 2 incorrectly. If you play Thoth, where you have ward control, you're on vision, they don't see, you aren't standing on a ward, you're with your team, you will never have a bad fight with this god. Ever. You will never, ever have a bad fight with this god. It is crazy the damage that Thoth is doing. I don't know why Hi-Res keeps over buffing these gods, but they're obsessed with them, so they do. So here's Thoth's build. There's Thoth's build. Keynote, Altar of Timeline. This is probably the best starter in the game amongst all gods. It's a reset, a 40% health reset. The stats on it are very strong. You get 50 power, which is a lot of power. It's not an insane amount. It's a lot of power. You get cooldown, which is great. And then you get double defenses. So it's hard for them to kill you. It takes them that much longer to kill you. If you have these protections and you're near a support with auras, you're mitigating like 40% of damage from hunters, assassins, warriors. It's crazy. Mages, similar numbers, but not quite the same. Then I Book of Thoth. The one thing with this build is you can swap up these 2 items and build them in whichever order you want. The build will be fine either which way. You're getting flat pen off of both of them. You're getting power off of both of them. A lot of people are liking Spear first because you stack up Thoth off of damage now, not off creep kills. So getting it second or third, you stack it very, very quickly. Then we're going Staff of Mirrodin because of the stats plus the passive. You open a fight with an ultimate, or even if you won and then ultimate, your 1's back up. Your 1's going to do a lot of damage. Your 2's going to do a lot of damage. Obsidian Shard, so that ultimate can one shot. Soul Reaver, so you can poke tanks and do more damage to tanks. Extremely basic build that you're going to see very common right now. I like this build, even for Tiamat, more than the book build. You can't run book build on Thoth. Don't do that to yourself. But just in general, this build has way more power and just overall presence because you can put Divine Ruin here. Anti-heal is super valuable right now. You're probably going to build Divine Ruin 90% of the time. I just have Spear here because Spear is the more aggressive, greedy item that you're going to want to go. Divine Ruin is still just, it's probably stronger than Deso, if we're being real about it. So here's the build. Ability leveling is straightforward, nothing crazy. Learn how to play Thoth if you're a mid laner. It's crazy the damage that Thoth is doing. Last, definitely not least, Kukulkan. Cuckoo is back. He's been back. He was back all of the end of last year. He was banned at Worlds every single game. This god is doing ridiculous damage. They did some buffs to him if you didn't know. The biggest thing was, I think they upped his 3 scaling, so his 3 hits harder. And they made his 2 have slow immunity the whole time through it rather than just when you cast it. That's a big deal. It might have been 1 scaling or 3. I'm not sure which one. They buffed the scaling on either the 1 or the 3. Now, why Kukulkan? his kit allows him to have the best rotation potential in Smite out of the mid lane. Well, why is that? He can throw his 3 down on the tower line, meaning you throw your 3 at their tower line. The creeps walk through it. They die. You've already left the lane. As soon as you throw your 3 out, this is not, you know, I think this is level, might be level 6 where you can do this, and maybe level 7, 6 or 7. You get to the point where your 3 full clears, which shouldn't be too far into the game, but you throw it out and you leave the lane. That's it. You don't look back. The wave's cleared and you're already halfway to the lane to go gank or create pressure or counter gank or whatever. As a mid laner, there are no other mid laners that can do this right now. None. Not even close. And the 2 allows you to rotate faster. The only downside to Kukulkan, same as Thoth, lack of CC immunity on the ultimate. And then there's a step further, a little bit lack of mobility. You still have the 2, so you're able to maneuver around. The god can self-peel very well off of the 1 slow, standing in his own 3 so they can't stand on top of you and do damage. And then your ultimate. Ultimate's very easy to hit if someone's on top of you. The build. This is the ultimate. This is where, you know, why Kukulkan is taking over. Okay, this build. Kukulkan does not need Soul Reaver. You can go it if you want. You do not need it. You want Polynomicon. Polynomicon is kit changing. It literally enhances and changes the whole everything about Kukulkan. In the late game, Kukulkan can 1 auto somebody with a polyproc and it will kill somebody. The 1 will hit for 11 to 1200. The auto, the white part of the auto, will hit to 200 to 300 ish. Then the Polynomicon will proc for 500 or 600. You have the ability to one-shot somebody with a build that has a reset on the starter. It has defense on the starter. It has solid cooldown. So you're looking at around 30% with blue Shaman Totem. Very good pen. You got your Ob Shard, so your ultimate can one-shot, or your 1 can, you know, slap somebody. You got the Rod, so your 1 can be on a shorter cooldown, or your 3 can be on a shorter cooldown. But that poly changes life. It makes it so hard to play against Kukulkan. The deeper part of Kukulkan is he's one of the really good mages at just stopping assassins from playing the game. Assassins want to get on top of mages and hunters. Kukulkan has 3 abilities that stop you from wanting to be on top of him. On top of his Polynomicon, so almost 4 abilities if you count Poly as ability. Kukulkan's kit is just crazy. It was middle of last year. I was saying he was probably better than everyone thought he was. And then he started to get played and just took off. And they gave him a mini buff and he went crazy. So that is our top 5 mids. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. If you're wondering anything about the builds or anything about the gods or anything specific, general, whatever, let me know. I'll answer. I mean, I read my comments. I don't think you guys process that a lot of the time. I read the comments. If you have any questions or comments or anything, drop them in there. Let me know. Make sure you're following, make sure you're subscribed, and I will see you in the video tomorrow, the next day, and the next day.